Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. Hang on a minute, Jingles. Didn't you do World of Warships yesterday? Yeah, and I'm doing it again today. You got a problem with that? No, didn't think so. My channel, my rules. Yesterday we had Giordimikara and the Yamato, or the Yamato, however you pronounce it, setting the monthly damage record for June for the most damage inflicted by a ship in a single battle, with 411,000 damage. Today, we have something that's equally impressive in its own way. We're not going to be seeing any damage records, but we're going to be seeing some fairly big numbers in other categories. A couple of comments were made on yesterday's video featuring Giordimikara's record-breaking game in the Yamato, and the common theme seemed to be that he got pretty lucky. Guys, nobody does that amount of damage in a game without a bit of luck on their side. Anytime you see somebody pulling off something spectacular, whether that's World of Warships, World of Tanks, War Thunder, whatever, there's generally a fair amount of luck involved. Whether that's idiot enemies who give broadsides to armor-piercing salvos, or insanely lucky RNG, there's always going to be some luck. That's what makes watching them entertaining. At the same time, it is an undeniable fact, well, you can try to deny it, but get used to being wrong, that good players do make their own good luck. It's funny how many times you see somebody like Quickie Baby or Circumflexes, for example, in World of Tanks, just happening to be in exactly the right spot to take advantage of the enemy team's incredibly poor decision making. That's not luck, that's experience and skill. Of course, sometimes it is just luck. But we're going to leave it up to you to decide whether it's luck, skill, or a combination of both in today's battle starring Ace 4 in the USS Indianapolis. It's a premium Tier 7 American heavy cruiser, 203mm guns, and for consumables Ace has gone with defensive fire rather than the hydroacoustic search consumable, and radar rather than the catapult fighter. Now this is Tier 7 radar, so it's not particularly good. It only lasts about 20 seconds. And since this is a heavy cruiser with a base 14.3 second reload, although obviously you can reduce that somewhat depending on captain skills and equipment fitted, anything that he spots with the radar, at best he can probably only expect to be able to fire 2 salvos against it before the radar expires and it disappears from view. The start of this battle is going to be fairly slow. He is in a cruiser, not a battleship. And while the Indianapolis's bow armor isn't too bad, in fact it's good enough to auto-bounce other cruisers armed with 203mm guns, the ship is kind of vulnerable to fire from high explosive shells with a caliber 152mm or higher, and anybody firing 356mm or higher armor-piercing shells, so every possible battleship this ship is going to face, with the exception of the Scharnhorst, is entirely capable of inflicting Citadel hits on the Indianapolis from any angle. So the Indianapolis is very good against other cruisers. It's moderately effective against enemy destroyers. It does only have 9 guns, and they do have a around 15-second reload, but it can be surprisingly effective against enemy battleships, providing they ignore you. Well, of course it's true that anybody can be effective against a battleship if the battleship's ignoring them, but the thing about these American 203mm armor-piercing shells is they do have pretty good shell velocity, 835 meters per second. And they're very heavy, so they don't lose a lot of shell velocity. These aren't like the American 127 or 152mm guns that have lightweight shells that just kind of hang in the air forever. These shells hit home, and they hit hard, and they hit pretty fast. That was a kind of disappointing salvo against the New Orleans, nothing but over penetrations, when he's loaded again. And that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. By some miracle, the New Orleans has survived. His engine was knocked out, so he uses his damage control to get his engines back up, but all that means is he reverses into the island behind him even faster. He's now a sitting duck, and he's not going to survive the 3rd salvo. That's Ace's first kill. Plenty more where that one came from. He doesn't actually fire an awful lot of high explosive ammunition in this game. In fact, I think the first salvo that he fired was high explosive against the enemy destroyer that got spotted and was the first enemy ship that got sunk. But from here on in, it's pretty much mostly, not 100%, but mostly going to be armor piercing. He's looking for those cruisers, giving him broadside, that he can punish. Cruisers like that Bidioni. He's now spotted after firing, and there's an island ahead of him, so he's going to have to make a decision. You're going to pass in front of or behind the island. Behind the island would probably be the safer of the two choices, because passing in front of the island means there's a very, very good chance that he would suddenly become the closest available target for all of these enemy ships. And they have mostly been ignoring him up until now. It's only really been the enemy Miyoko who's been shooting at him. But turning the other way would have meant sailing towards the enemy. And while they're ignoring him now, if he started to get any closer, there's a good chance that they wouldn't. And then when they start shooting at you and you decide, actually, I'm not in a battleship, I'm just in a cruiser, and you decide you need to turn away, you have to give them a broadside. So this is definitely the more sensible of the two options. He's looking for the best target for his armor-piercing shells, and there really isn't one at the moment. The Miyoko's angled against him. The Gneisenau is just a little bit too far away for this armor-piercing to be effective. So he switches to the high explosive. This is one of those rare occasions where you're going to see him firing high explosive, and get some shots in the air in an attempt to inflict some damage on the Gneisenau superstructure and possibly set it on fire. And there's the Bidioni, but oh look, he has a little friend with him. It's HMS Emerald, British Tier 5 light cruiser, and he's practically stationary. This is a job for the armor-piercing ammunition. And that is going to be a paddling, not of epic proportions, but a paddling nonetheless for HMS Emerald. Would have been substantially worse if he hadn't gotten underway at the last second. It's not a kill, but it will be as soon as these guns have reloaded, because he's sailing in a straight line. He's not even attempting to maneuver. So there is Ace's second kill. Next, he really does want to finish off that Bidioni, and yes, he is in fact giving us a bit of broadside. Then again, the Bidioni's armour isn't fantastic. It's not quite as bad as a British light cruiser, but it's bad enough. And that's kill number 3. Next, the Le Galissonière, French Tier 6 cruiser. You are not in a particularly good spot there, Monsieur Le Galissonière. You might wish to try running away. Of course, you should probably stop shooting as well. Oh dear, no. Well, he's managed to set Ace on fire, but well, he's hardly taken any damage up until now, and the Gneisenau missed him. Unfortunately, the Le Galissonière is still shooting, which means Ace can still see him, and he's showing broadside. And as we've established by now, that is a paddling, and there's kill number 4. Now, the Gneisenau has finally noticed that Ace is busy farming kills on all of his teammates. And while he missed with his first salvo, the Indianapolis cannot bow tank a Gneisenau. That ship's guns are entirely capable of punching holes in his citadel right through the nose of the ship. To be fair to that Gneisenau, he does have a rather target-rich environment to choose from at the moment, but, well, Ace is not one of them. Aha! Pair of enemy heavy cruisers, an Indianapolis on the enemy team, and a Miyoko. The Gneisenau is still exchanging fire with ships over to the west, rather than Ace, which is always good news. But why is the Miyoko doing that? Because he was kind of given a bit of broadside momentarily before he turned away. Do you think perhaps there are torpedoes in the water? Now, if we're going to find out if we're right, it's probably going to be the hard way, because Ace does not have hydroacoustic search and he doesn't have a spotter plane that he can launch. But when you see a Miyoko doing that, there are probably going to be torpedoes on the way. Which is really bad news for the King George V, because as he turned into the torpedoes and only took one of them, he gave a broadside to the Gneisenau. The Gneisenau, who, having just proven that his guns are pointing in this direction, is still not targeting Ace. In fact, none of them are. Oh wait, no. Somebody is targeting him. It's not the Indianapolis, he's firing at somebody else. Is it the Gneisenau? It is the Gneisenau. And it missed. Because it's a Gneisenau. Yeah. It doesn't have a lot of guns, and what guns it has are best used at shorter ranges. Now we switch back to the armor piercing again, because the Miyoko, if he's going to run away, is going to have to start showing a bit of broadside. And he's slowing it down a little because he wants to keep this island between himself, the Gneisenau, and the Indianapolis. He wants no interruptions while he's dealing with this Miyoko. Now, unfortunately for the Miyoko, he is too close to be able to stealth up, so he has nothing to lose by continuing to fire. He's now showing the starboard side of the ship, and we know he launched the torpedoes from the port side earlier, so there are probably more torpedoes incoming, and the Miyoko's only chance is to make it behind that island before Ace finishes him off. But he's just not quite fast enough, and yep, there are the torpedoes, and there's the Kraken Unleashed award, kill number 5. And of course, there just so happens to be a very handy Indianapolis-sized gap in between the torpedoes there. Now, he did take a hit from that New Mexico, and his guns are loaded and it's pointing at the Gneisenau. However, he's now gone undetected, so he holds his fire. Maneuvers behind this island. New Mexico fires blind and misses. This is going to be a kill on the New Mexico. Even if he hits his superstructure and gets nothing but over penetrations, the New Mexico is on such low health that is practically a guaranteed kill. Number 6, for those of you who haven't been keeping count. Now then, the enemy Indianapolis over there has horribly overcommitted, although to be fair to him, the decision to end up on that flank over there probably didn't look like such a bad idea just a couple of minutes ago when he was surrounded by friendly ships. But now he isn't, so he is well and truly in the shit. And to be fair to him, I think that he knows there's no way he can possibly turn around and disengage without giving masses of broadside to somebody, so he's just trying to get as much damage done as he possibly can before this happens. And that's 7. Now for the Gneisenau. The Gneisenau is not in a particularly enviable situation either. There's a destroyer in front of him, so he has to kind of nose in towards the destroyer because naturally he's expecting torpedoes. And of course, Ace is entirely happy with that, because while his attention is distracted by the destroyer in front of him, he can just farm damage on his flank with the 203mm high explosive. Now, the destroyer has actually been taken out by an enemy destroyer, but the poor old Gneisenau still cannot turn away and disengage, because there's another serious threat right in front of him, who's busy unloading multiple large-caliber armor-piercing shells right into that poor old Gneisenau's face. There is in fact a friendly New Mexico, who's sailing right up the central channel here on Two Brothers, and is right in front of that very unfortunate German battleship, who, let's face it, is screwed. He's on fire, he's taken fire from the flank, and if he was to turn away from this flanking fire, he's got to give the side of his ship to a New Mexico. And that is not going to end very well for him. On the other hand, if he continues taking fire like this, it's not going to end very well for him either. Ace switches to the armor piercing. He's just about close enough, and there's the Confederate award, that if he can penetrate the upper armor belt on the side of the Gneisenau with some armor piercing, that's going to be one less German battleship for everybody to worry about. And that's kill number 8. Now, I don't want to promote gambling, but you could start placing your bets at this point. How many kills is Ace going to end this game with? 8? He's already got 8, so it's a fairly safe bet. 9? Or do you think he can clean up both of the remaining enemy ships and finish this match with 10 kills out of the 12 available? Is this going to be a 10-kill game? Sit down, strap in, and let's find out. We know there's a Hatsuharu out there somewhere. Or is he going to be able to kill that New Mexico before the rest of his team finish him off? He is taking damage. If he's going to get this guy, it's going to have to be a kill steal. He's just gone undetected. Why do you suppose that is? The Hatsuharu would have been spotting him, but now he's not. Do you suppose it's because the Hatsuharu is now on the other side of that island, and so no longer has direct line of sight? Yes, I think that's entirely likely. So let's keep an eye open for torpedoes, but for now, we need to steal the kill on that New Mexico. High explosive loaded, because, well, it is kind of extreme range and armor piercing probably wouldn't get the job done. Oh, and it's going to take another salvo. He needs to get the shots in there, get that kill stolen before the friendly Leander shooting from the cover of the smoke screen finishes the job. Yep, got it. Kill number 9. Now, with that Hatsuharu. You know, I think it's about time we used our radar. And, yep, pretty much exactly where we guessed he was going to be. There's the Hatsuharu. Now, there may be torpedoes in the water, so let's not expose the broadside of the ship just to get that rear turret firing in our eagerness to claim the 10th kill and the final kill of the game. Of course, there is a bit of a stiff competition for this final kill. Naturally, it's a destroyer. He's spotted. He's in the open. He doesn't appear to have a smokescreen left. And he doesn't appear to be firing torpedoes at anybody either. I mean, it's possible that there are torpedoes on the way. It's also possible that he's trying to fire torpedoes at somebody, but he keeps exposing the broadside of his ship to multiple semi-armor piercing from the Leander and high explosive shells from everybody else. So, Ace may be setting himself up for a torpedo hit here, but what's the worst that can happen? He'll die with 9 kills. But if he manages to get all 9 guns firing, there's a potential chance to finish this game with 10. And Ace figures it's worth the risk. And you know what? Turns out it was. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Ace 4 in the USS Indianapolis with 10 kills. A frankly disgusting display of greed and avarice. I mean, save something for the rest of the team, why don't you? There were only 12 ships for him to shoot at. He sank 10 of them, and of the 2 that he didn't sink, he damaged another 1. I don't know, at this point I think he's just showing off. Look at that. 1 million credits. Holy crap. Ace, thank you for sending that one in. Everybody else, I hope you enjoyed it, because that's it for today. And as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.